Well, today I get to sit down here with Breanna and we get to have a look at her website because she asked me to help her with it. And I've sort of said not yet, okay? Because she needs a bit of time to work out what her niche is. But I will happily help her down the track. So, Breanna, let me get this right. You specialise in helping teens, young adults, and kids with autism. Why autism? What is it about that makes that your niche?
When I first started working in the industry, I worked with a lot of people with autism. This is what I love.
No worries. And there's only two people in all of Australia that I actually recommend for helping someone with their website who I know that's not going to scam them. One is Greg Chadwick at the Gold Coast, and the other would be myself. I'm open to discovering new people who think like we do, but really, both Greg and I just want to see someone like you do well. So maybe in like 2 months, get in touch with either one of us. So
Okay.
your niche makes sense and it's passion driven, okay? When you look at your website, the photos feel like they're not passion driven. The photos feel like everyone else. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep, it does.
Okay, so you don't necessarily need photos of your real participants, but you need photos of you and people in your life who are happy to be on a website. Does that make sense?
Yep, okay. Cool.
Okay, because something like this, is that a stock photo from somewhere
That
other?
is, yeah.
Okay, so you can tell a stock photo because the lighting's too perfect and everyone's too happy, or because they're at the beach with their hands in the air. That's sort of random too,
Yeah.
but that's a
Yeah.
story for another day. So, and that would be the first thing. Change the stock photos, but also tell the truth. Tell people what you do and who you help, and then just give good advice. So instead of supports and what you cover, because to be honest, they're gonna be the same on everyone's websites, right? Is that a
Yep.
real photo?
That is a real photo.
Yeah, you can tell because it looks good. Like it's good people who are there helping that young lady. Okay. With this, okay, check out like a bit. So you're giving great advice. Well done. That's exactly what you want to do. You need a lot of subheadings though. People won't read a big block of text. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. I know to appeal to Google, we need to have a certain number of characters per page. So sometimes maybe I'm just trying to add in enough characters for it to be appealing to Google. Is that something that's important and to take into consideration, would you say?
I'd do that when you've got 100 participants. Okay.
Okay.
Initially, no one's going to find you on Google, Brandon.
Okay.
But when you've got more runs on the board, Google will happily show you off. And then you want ideally 1,000 words a page.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you don't do that by just generating more words. At the bottom, you might put, say, a bunch of jokes or a bunch of tips or a bunch of something. I'd worry about that stuff later. Good question.
Okay.
I think for now, though, just get as much good advice as you can out there. When people read that, they trust you. Okay? So these aren't really supports. They're more tips for supports or something, or good advice or something like that. If you were to change that to what you're actually doing, I think it'll go for it. The other thing is, really, it's your homepage and your contact page that matter. So your homepage, get good information here about what you do. Yes, you know your stuff, but everyone claims that. Now, I know you know your stuff because you've got a track record of, but everyone claims that. So somehow, instead of telling people you know your stuff, tell them, here's our best advice on this and this and this. And
Okay.
an example of that would be, say, these guys, they're registered nurses and they give good advice like that's Nia giving advice about staying active. You're like, well, what's that got to do with anything? It's got a lot because that's a real lady giving real advice.
Yeah.
Or say, yeah, high intensity support. There's Koala, his name's Koala, and he's going, look, break it down into steps. Like, I
Yep.
trust him
Okay.
because he's giving advice. What's going through your head when I suggest that?
That makes sense. Totally makes sense.
Okay, so you can do that. You don't need to wait till you've got a new website to do that. You can just give advice.
Okay.
And when you do that, you've got to look very relaxed. Okay, he probably looks a little formal there. It'd be even better if he was like thumbs up or something silly. You know what I mean? Okay,
Cool.
so you can do that. So the most important pages for you are going to be your home page and your contact page. But what's really good about this is you've got real Breanna. Maybe give some reassurance. Contact us. You've said you'll get back to the same business. Actually, you can't do better than that. We'll get back to the same business day. In other words, while you still got 5 participants, say I'll get back to you the same day. Don't try and look corporate if you're not. But
Yep.
then when you got another staff member say we, okay, you will be speaking to
Right.
Breanna. Great. Something like, hey, I know this matters to you. I'll get back to you the same day. I
Yep.
dare to test me on this sort of thing, without actually saying it like that. Also,
Yep.
little things here, like your phone number's written like someone in Bangladesh wrote it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Now, I know that that's written like that so people can WhatsApp up you, but most Australians are going to go, oh, it's American or it's Bangladesh, right?
Okay. All right.
And then say that there should be clickable. It should be that when you click on it, it opens up in your browser. Does that make
Ah,
sense?
okay. Yep. Yep. I can
Easy
do
to,
that.
easy to fix. And then this
Yep.
one, that's a very Shopify sort of look, right? I get that. It There'll be a way of having a simpler contact form where ideally without the sixth one, because everyone in the US is going to be Australian anyway. When you upgrade your website in a couple of months, you want to go back to looking a bit more Australian. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay. And when I talk to you, I've never heard you say reason for inquiry. What you would say is what?
How can we help you? How
How
can
can
we
we
help?
help you? I wouldn't be worried about the details. I'd be worried about get the main thing right, you know?
Yep.
And this one here, if we don't just want to meet expectations, we want to redefine them, you and I know that's the truth, right?
Yep.
But everyone claims it. So therefore
Yes.
it's scissors beats paper, paper beats rock, you know, and
Yep.
rock beats the truth, you know. So even though it's true, I'd get rid of that because it also makes your template look a bit older. Or if you're going to leave it there, say something like, if you can find a question about helping teenagers with autism that I can't answer, I'll post you a box of chocolates.
Okay. Yep.
Now that's a bit ludicrous, isn't it?
Yep.
But you don't have a company with 20
Memorable.
staff you know what?
Yep.
What's going through your head when I'm like, yeah, you need to go and post people chocolates? What's going through your head?
That's definitely rememberable, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So you don't need an expert person to come and redo your website for you start to finish. Like these guys have got, for example, like these guys, they have the sort of scale that they can afford to pay decent amount of money for something that's going to be good for them for many years, right?
Yep.
For you, you're just feeling your way through. Okay, so I guess though that would be where I'd start. The rest, you'll work it out. Is there anything else though I can tell you that's helpful? Do you have any questions going through your head?
That makes sense. Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. Everything you've said. No
Okay,
feedback.
that's all right. It wouldn't hurt to have a few case studies. You know,
Okay.
not people's real names and real photos, but just like, look, there was a 17-year-old I was working with recently and she refused to go to school. We implemented these 5 things and now she goes to school about 80% of the time. What a win.
Okay. Cool. Yep.
Because that shows people you've got a track record. Okay, and I
Yep.
would recommend using the word
Makes
track
sense.
record.
All right.
Because people looking at your website going, oh, she's new. They don't realise that in a previous life you've got a real track record in autism.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
You
Yeah.
can do it. And then when you get to the scale of actually, let's say 15, 20 participants, looking small right now is an advantage to you. At that
Yeah.
scale, it becomes less of an advantage. That's where you get in touch with like Greg Chadwick at the Gold Coast or myself, Michael Clark, or someone who thinks like we do. There must be 100 people who think like we do, who understand NDIS and understand websites. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
No worries. Your website address, if they want to get in touch with you, it's
Yep.
like, guys, if you're looking at what we're doing here with Breanna and you're thinking, she's really good, it's because she is. And she's in Melbourne and specialising in obviously autism and physical disabilities, but she's the real deal. I'm just going to say that, Breanna. Is that okay with you if I say that?
Totally.
Okay, love your work. All right, you have a good one, Breanna.
Thank you so much, Michael.